I'm here in Edinburgh to meet with the senior leadership team of pureLiFi. So today I'm joined by Professor Harald Haas, who's the co-founder and Chief Scientific Officer of pureLiFi, along with Alistair Banham, CEO, and Harald Burchardt, who's the Chief Commercial Officer. So thank you for your time today. I mean, I'm sure it's a very exciting time in the company now. You're certainly well beyond that initial startup phase. So I'll start with you, Harald. What is Li-Fi is the first thing, and what was the light bulb moment that basically got you here where you are now?
Yeah, so Li-Fi is wireless networking by light. The moment that we've created is perhaps many moments. So my background is wireless communications, and I've been involved in the wireless communications industry for 25 years. I have seen GSM, the second generation. I was involved at Siemens in defining the third generation. And this is where basically my interest was created basically 15 years ago, when we had the paradigm shift from mobile telephony to mobile multimedia. And this is when I went to academia and I realized that the radio spectrum, if we have sort of continued growth in wireless services, multimedia, the radio spectrum may not be sufficient to serve all the mobile services that we have now. But at that time wasn't that imminent. But at the same time, around 2000, we saw the mass market wide LED. And the light bulb moment was basically by recognizing that light is the same as radio, but at higher frequencies. So it's electromagnetic spectrum. And the question was, can we achieve very high data rates from off-the-shelf wide LEDs? And that was the question I posed to my students at International University in Bremen. And we knew that we can communicate with LEDs. Infrared was possible with TV remote controls. But the question was, can we achieve very high data rates? I think we were the first to show in an experiment that we can use a modulation technique that is known in RF for a long time, OFDM, to apply it to off-the-shelf LEDs to unlock very high data rates. And that was the birth of sort of high-speed wireless connectivity with wide LED light, which we brought then to the global stage via TED Global in 2011. But it is very important that we see Li-Fi is coming as a wireless networking technology. So we have sort of cellular communications, we have Wi-Fi, and Li-Fi takes that to a next stage in densifying sort of data rates and providing really high what we call area data rates, so bits per second per square meter, and that is where we are.
So I mean, everyone's really familiar with Wi-Fi. It's often described as it's almost a utility now. It's you go somewhere and you haven't got it, people are lost. Why would I think about why do I need a different solution? Why would I go to Li-Fi instead of Wi-Fi?
I think this is a very important question, and we have to recognize that physics doesn't have names. Physics doesn't know radio, it doesn't know infrared, it doesn't know visible light, it doesn't know gamma waves. So it's all part of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? That's a very first important recognition or acknowledgement. And then what we have seen over the past 10 years is that the annual growth rate of data traffic, wireless data traffic, was about 60%. So it's an exponential growth of data over the last 10 years. And we now are at the edge of, or we are in the fourth industrial revolution, where we talk about autonomous systems, we talk about connectivity everywhere, digital economies. So the growth of wireless traffic, mobile traffic, will continue to grow at the same rate and perhaps even higher. So if we take a growth rate, an annual growth rate of 60% and fast forward 20 years, that would mean an additional need for spectrum at a factor of 12,000. So currently in Wi-Fi, we use, for example, 500 megahertz in the 5 gigahertz region. Now multiply 500 megahertz by 12,000, you end up at a figure that is 6 terahertz of bandwidth needed in 20 years. The radio spectrum is only 0.3 terahertz. So if we want to have our sort of economies grow, we have the fourth industrial revolution really unfold, we need to unlock new spectrum. And the infrared spectrum and the visible light spectrum together is 2,600 times larger than the radio spectrum. So basically, we have a big ocean in front of us in terms of capability, as opposed to a little paddle that we try to optimize now in the radio domain. So it's really to grow future autonomous systems, to grow wireless connectivity, to grow machine-type communication, to really connect our systems in the future. We need spectrum, we need a nervous system, and a nervous system is basically provided by the big spectrum that's available in the invisible light domain. So it's inevitable. Yeah. It's not a question when, if, it's a question when, and we are leading it, and we continue to lead it.
I think if I may add to that, I mean, you asked why would I choose one over the other, but actually if you look at the history of wireless communications, actually all these technologies are still operating now with one another. So we still have 2G networks, 3G networks, 4G networks, Wi-Fi of different styles, of different grades, and also WiGig coming now, and all of these are interoperating. And 5G also, which is now coming around the corner, is going to do exactly that. It's going to basically bridge all of the spectrum that is currently still radio based, and treat it as a single channel. And we see Li-Fi to fit exactly alongside all of that. Li-Fi provides this 2,600 times more spectrum that will be added to the existing spectrum, to the existing infrastructures. And we're working in the background already with the ecosystem to make sure that Li-Fi is 5G ready. So in the future, you won't be choosing between one or the other, or electing to take Wi-Fi or 4G or Li-Fi, but rather your systems will already be smart enough to choose the best connection or a combination of the best connections, with Li-Fi simply adding that huge amount of additional bandwidth to the existing infrastructure. So it's really an aspect of adding to that communications ecosystem instead of having to choose or replace.
And if you look at it in a radio context, in 2G and 3G we talked about centimeter waves. In 5G we talk about millimeter waves. And what light is nanometer waves. It's that continuum. So we simply extend it in order to unlock new transmission capabilities.
Yeah. So you're saying this is a powerful vision for the future, and obviously something we have to do. But when you start, what's the response you get from obviously device manufacturers? Because obviously the uptake is down to everyone who makes all the widgets and tablets and phones we have adopting the technology. I mean, what's their response to this problem and your potential solution for that?
Well, I think we were at Mobile World Congress in February, and on our stand we had the demonstrators where we could show handover, and during that week we had representatives from all the major handset manufacturers, the telecom manufacturers and clients that could potentially adopt this technology into their products. And the feedback we got was absolutely fantastic. I mean, they understood the technology, we had extensive discussions with them, and it's something that will happen, and it's something that they will start to put onto their roadmaps at the appropriate time to enable us to make this technology pervasive. And I think, as we said earlier, it's all about the ecosystem, so we're working with all those ecosystem partners, from the telecoms operators to the routers and the switch to the lighting manufacturers. And we need more lighting manufacturers to get involved in this technology and work with us, and we're working through that. To the receiver, the client, whether it be a laptop, whether it be a handset, whether it be a tablet, whether it be whatever. And we know based on the spectrum crunch that Harald just mentioned, the amount of demand for data, he talked about 60% CAGR per year. 70% of that is indoors, and of that 70%, 80% is video. So we know with all these new applications, these new demands for data, whether it be Smart Nation, whether it be the Smart Office, whether it be the transmission through Facebook and all these kind of medium, the demand for wireless data is going to explode. And if you're a manufacturer of products that needs to serve a high growth demand market, then you're going to have to think of different ways of supporting those needs. So Li-Fi is one of those solutions that will help address that demand and consumption by the global population as we go forward.
I mean, you mentioned obviously it'll coexist with all these other technologies
Yes.
that we do like. Lots of consumer electronics do the support. But you say that the handover is seamless. So if I'm in a room and I'm using a 3G connection, but suddenly I walk into an area where Li-Fi, you could be programmed. Actually, I'll go with the Li-Fi because that's the most efficient method.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed, a classic example is what happens if your phone is in your pocket. Obviously, there's little light coming into your pockets, but it's still radio. But if you take it out, and suddenly you see the big sort of data channel via light, and then light will take over the communication link. So it's a seamless experience for the user.
Yeah. So obviously that's the mass data transfer market. I mean, in lighting now, we're starting to see a lot of talk about new business models for the lighting industry itself and enabling data as a service. Obviously, data transmission over lighting that's a data model. But we start to see things like indoor location technology.
Yes.
Is that something that you see being able to be supported over Li-Fi networks as well?
So, if I may to take that question, so that is one service that Light will provide, and we have a diversification of services with Light. So if you imagine, the mobile phone 25 years ago had basically two services: mobile telephony and SMS. The smartphone now has hundreds of services. We can draw exactly same analogy here with lights. The incandescent light bulb provides one service, primarily, which is light, but also heat. In the future, light bulb will have an operating system. It will have a microcontroller, microprocessors. It will have is a full computer, if you want. That would obviously also continue to provide light as a service, but light will only be one out of hundreds of services, and Li-Fi will be the enabler to diversify into hundreds of services for smart buildings, smart environments, smart homes, smart cities, and that is a crucial development in the lighting industry, because that opens up new opportunities. In the lighting industry is by recognizing that light is part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and being able to communicate with light will put them into the classic sphere of the wireless communications industry. And likewise, the classic wireless communications industry has the opportunity to expand their capabilities into the lighting domain. So they will operate what is the classic sort of space of the lighting industry, and that will merge into one single industry, giving huge opportunities for those who understand what the opportunities offer. And we, with Li-Fi, are the enabler for this sort of disruption of the convergence of two major industries, but it has to be realized by these industries.
Yeah. So I mean, on a purely practical note, a lot of people ask us, they see the technology, they can see the benefit. How does the data get into the light in the first place?
So
I mean, we have multiple ways to do that. So we as a company are primarily looking at the last meters of connectivity, because that's really where the major bottleneck in current wireless communications is happening. With regards to the backhaul, power over Ethernet is one way. Fundamentally, you need to get power and data to every light bulb. Now, existing lighting systems are using power lines anyway, mains cabling, to provide the power to those light bulbs. There is a technology called Powerline Communications that can be adopted in order to provide the data over that same infrastructure. But at the same time, you'll have seen as well that, in particular in the US, but also now more and more in Europe, using power over Ethernet for the power delivery to lights, but also then to be able to do IP-based monitoring and control and things like that, allows us to then make use of those fat data pipes to provide data and power to the lights again. So from our perspective, I mean, that's why, again, it's really important for us to work not only with lighting companies to understand how they are approaching that backhaul issue, but also with infrastructure providers, because your wireless enterprise providers are providing cabling in the ceiling already anyway, and it's that ecosystem of combining those two worlds into one that provides the backhaul for Li-Fi is where our core focus lies. And longer term, I mean, again, Professor Haas mentioned about all of the spectrum that's available. And one of the beauties of light actually is that light can be made to be extremely directional. So who knows if we might not be able to use light as the backhaul in the future as well, to miniaturize point-to-point systems between lights or across the ceiling to, again, massively aggregate the amount of data wirelessly that we have at our disposal.
And there are, if I may add to that, there are potentially huge cost savings, because at the moment, if you have a building installation, you install light as a service, and then in addition the wireless network, you need the IT infrastructure. But now imagine you have that combined into one system, and that would then basically allow enormous cost savings that we have seen with.
Yeah, that's absolutely key. I mean, we're already seeing that process of the smart building itself. Really, is that combination across all three of the lighting and the IT and the electricity, all kind of now being optimized across a single platform. Well, LiFi can provide that endpoint as well across, on top of that smart building system, and then enable again the use of IoT for smart systems within that building and monitoring and enablement of a huge amount of additional applications.
So if I'm a lighting manufacturer, what do I need to do to join in this revolution? Is it, are the light fitting? Can this be fitted to any lighting product? Is it that easy, or do you have to do some quite complex engineering to?
Well, I think our approach is we work with the lighting companies. They have their own strategy. They have their own products. We will co-develop a LiFi enabled integrated luminaire that enables them to connect it via PLC or via the PoE. As the transmitter and receiver for LiFi technology. So it's about working together. It's co-developing these products, sharing our technology with their roadmap, and then we can develop devices that will enable us to transmit LiFi.
So what's the kind of business model that you're going to take moving forward? Are you going to be supplying light fittings? Or are you going to be supplying boxes of electronics? What's that?
So I think our business model is to provide LiFi technology to enable these companies to develop their own products with our LiFi technology, pureLiFi technology inside. Our goal is not ultimately to build systems or finished products, but it's to provide the technology to enable our customers to develop their own products. So today we have, as you know, we have the LiFi X, we have the dongle, the station, we have the access point, but as we go forward and we think about the integration of devices and components, our team will work on these products to enable a set of devices that can be integrated by anyone, and therefore drive mass adoption for LiFi technology, whether it be in a handset or a light bulb, which is very important to get it into the GU10, which is the ultimate goal here. So when you change your GU10 in your home in the future, it becomes LiFi enabled, for example. That would be one of our big visions.
Yeah.
So.
I was just going to say, if I may add to that, I mean, we look at one prime example of a lighting company we're already working with is a French company called Lucibel, where the lights actually we have integrated in our board meeting here, which we conduct under LiFi, I should say as well. That's a fully certified product an integrated lighting product that they're bringing to the market. So for them, not only has it opened up an entirely new product line, but actually it's opened up an entirely new side of their business, which they didn't have before, which is data connectivity. So in areas, not only in specialist areas where secure and safe communication is desired, but also in wider commercial spaces, and also looking into retail, where a lot of the benefits of LiFi can be utilized. Lucibel now has the opportunity, aside from their lighting business, to enter into to develop a completely new business model that is really centered around data, which again is what we can see from all these trends in the lighting and in other industries, is where everything's going nowadays. So I think it's that ability to add, to really fundamentally add a new business unit to your already growing lighting company.
And what kind of, where are the challenges? What's the barriers to adoption? So not from your perspective to the industry, but what will the industry face in terms of what's the barrier to getting LiFi into lots of buildings? What's the
Maybe one comment. I always compare it to analog photography in the past, where you had these analog films that got completely wiped out with the CMOS sensor, the digital camera, and that's been a paradigm shift. And with the LiFi, we enable, or with the LED light bulb, which lasts 20 years, we have a similar paradigm shift. But what LiFi does, and what Harald and Alistair just said, is we will enable that industry to diversify into becoming a service business. So light as a service is really enabled, and that's not only about indoor navigation. It's a what I would call the walkie-talkie under the smartphones. What we allow is hundreds and perhaps thousands of new services around lighting systems, and that's what we enable the lighting industry to do. So
But I think to go back to your question about what challenges that Li-Fi faces, I really think the primary challenge. And I always like to tell our CTO that technology or technical problems will always be solved. So that's what he should, he should get done. And we are, we're making great strides in the products that we're bringing to the market, and also the core technology that Alistair mentioned going forward. I think the challenges will always be more on the commercial side. It is really about adoption, which we can drive through technology to some extent, and through in performance improvements, cost downs, miniaturization, design-ins, those kind of things. But we are already working very hard on building the ecosystem around Li-Fi. It's you see the radio frequency ecosystem of operators, infrastructure providers, device manufacturers, software providers. We're in Li-Fi, that ecosystem is very similar, but we're now adding lighting to it. So it presents an entirely new opportunity for lighting companies to be part of an ecosystem that is really becoming the core part of our lives going forward. And that is probably the main challenge, I would say, but through standardization, through our own commercial developments, that's how we're attacking that problem.
Yeah, and I think just to build on that, we're seeing new types of industries coming in and talking to us. So, for example, the building companies that are building these future office spaces, hotels, and whatever, they're looking at new ways of adding value to their customers. So we're already seeing, there's a couple of examples in Paris with Nexity and Sojapon, who have, as part of their value add to their potential customers, they have Li-Fi enabled technologies in their boardrooms that they can show and demonstrate. So there's a whole raft of hotel opportunities where they're saying, well, we'd like to use Li-Fi in our building to provide a service. For example, in bathrooms, if you're in a Faraday cage, there's always LED lights in a bathroom. So there's the use case there where we're already testing these kind of issues out, where just using the LED light in the bathroom provides a secure, safe transmission of wireless data into your product. So, not only is it the telecoms, not only is it the routers, the switch companies, not only is it the lighting companies and the receivers on the clients and the desktops and the handsets and whatever, but it's also this whole new service industry being developed with the building companies are saying, actually, we put these lighting infrastructure in, we put the IT in, I can see this merging together. So I think the shape of the facilities and the IT in these companies going forward will change. It may become one, and they're now saying, well, we can add value using Li-Fi in secure boardrooms, in our legal department, where we really want to have data transmitted in a very secure way for the receiver that cannot be intercepted by other people. So it's creating a whole new industry, which is really exciting.
I mean, it's part of the challenge that obviously in a building you have these traditional silos that don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
So you have the IT people don't talk to the energy people. Is that where the worlds need to come together? Is that the
I think they're going to merge. I mean, that's my
I think
view.
it's already happening.
Yeah. I mean, it is important to think beyond these barriers. And there's so many examples in past industries, wireless communications industries, where if you think within your limits and in the past and don't realize that the global trends, you're getting behind. And that's why, for example, the smartphone was so successful, because of opening up into multiple services rather than sharing ringtones or doing voice. And that openness and opening up a platform, creating a platform for new applications, that has really unlocked that industry. And I see the same in the lighting industry. With Li-Fi, you suddenly open up the lighting system into a massive service opportunity in creating new systems. And one important thing as well is we talk about autonomous systems, and we need connectivity in these autonomous systems, which is similar to the nervous system. And you don't want to have someone tap into this nervous system, so it needs to be secure. And Li-Fi and light provides huge opportunities for secure, enhanced security for these sort of vital systems in hospitals, for car-to-car communication and so on. That's another very important aspect that we cover with our technology.
So I mean, you've said, obviously, you touched on it there. Is Li-Fi just an indoor technology, or is this something you
Absolutely not. And there's a big misconception that people think that if you take it out into sunlight, it would not work. But actually, it works exactly almost the same as indoors. You may have 1.5% reduction in data rate because of the additional noise that's generated. But our patented modulation techniques are robust to ambient light. So you can work it out in street lamps, in cars, everywhere, essentially. But as Alistair said, 80% of the data traffic originates and terminates indoors, so it's the natural starting point.
Yeah. But then obviously the big, we're seeing this digitization in all elements of the lighting industry, and people talk about smart cities. Is lighting part of, could Li-Fi be part of that equation? When we start thinking about autonomous cars, and
it's inevitable. Li-Fi or light has to be part of it because we are running into a shortage of transmission resources. The radio spectrum is not sufficient to provide the connectivity of the future.
So in terms of, so we've said on an outdoor application, for the technology to work, so would the streetlights have to be at full power in the middle of the day to do that, or can is that the...
It doesn't have to be a full power. The data communication is only one part of the sort of entire functionality, so we can reduce illumination and maintain communication capability. So that can be sort of separated if you want.
And I think to add to that, this amount of spectrum is so wide that you can use even non-visible spectrum to provide data connectivity when the streetlights need to be off, for example. And I think going back to the point about the smart cities, smart X, all these trends that are building up now, the fundamental point is they all rely on connectivity. It doesn't matter where you are, all of these sensors, all of these systems, all of this intelligence needs to be communicated back and forth in some manner, and it's going to be primarily wireless. And that again simply is going to drive that need for additional spectrum that Li-Fi can provide.
Yeah, and wherever you have an LED, you have the ability to transmit wireless data. So everyone becomes an access point. So, just think most of the cars today have LED front lamps and rear lamps. So, I can see communication from car to car, which will say, actually, that car in front, 5 there, just put its brakes on, and you get a message coming back, and there's through the autonomous car or the new vehicles, they will just slow down and give you some kind of just one of limitless applications for, wireless data transfer through an LED lamp.
And I mean, there's so many applications,
yes.
And a lot of them start with consumer electronics. So the consumer electronics industry has been very good at quickly adopting new technology and standardizing it, pretty quickly, and they realize that compatibility between lots of devices is the key to success. Where we look at the lighting industry, where actually things move pretty slowly. And is that going to cause you problems if we don't get lined up to seize this opportunity?
Well, I think just to start on this one, I mean, Harald mentioned earlier, the lighting industry is looking for new business models. The replacement market that they've traditionally enjoyed is changing. I mean, the incandescent light or the tungsten lamp that I had, or the halogens are, they're being replaced by LEDs. Therefore, the life cycle of an LED lamp is longer. They quote 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So they've got to look for new ways of generating revenue to support, their business plans. And therefore, I think there will be, a pretty sense of urgency with these senior guys in these companies saying, okay, what is the vision for our company? How and what technologies can we use and deploy within our products to help us drive revenue in the future? And Li-Fi is a great example of an answer to help bridge that gap.
And pureLiFi is leading standardization activity in IEEE at 802.11, which is the Wi-Fi standard. So there's a topic group on Li-Fi. So that trend, and we share it and we lead it. So we will see that sort of connectivity with light, Li-Fi will also be standardized, so it's become ubiquitous.
And are any lighting companies on that panel as well? Is there any big names in there already?
Yeah, there are. I mean, of course, we do have the support from Lucibel who's on there, but we are bringing now the likes of, for example, Ushio, who has recently signed up to that. We know that some of the largest LED manufacturers in Europe that are currently taking part in those discussions. So the goal actually at the moment is to bring on additional lighting players that to help support that industry. We look at it also, you mentioned before, consumer electronics is very good at driving standards and mass adoption of technology. That in itself should then motivate the lighting players to move quicker as well, one way or the other. The consumer electronics is now currently one of the largest markets that we have. It moves so quickly, and we now see that Li-Fi has always traditionally faced this chicken and egg issue of to say, well, do we install the infrastructure, or then do we have the devices to do it, or the other way around? We're now seeing actually from both sides of the market pull for that technology that are pulling each other to say, look, my consumers need higher bandwidth, more spectrum. I need Li-Fi, and on the infrastructure side, actually, we already have lighting companies that we're working together with that are starting to roll that out for various areas to provide that connectivity. So I do think there is a point where the lighting industry is already starting to wake up that it needs to start evolving more quickly in these trends, and so that's where we're continuing to drive that forward.
And that's very important, and that's one of the barriers that the lighting industry has traditionally focused on illumination and design and so on. But if that industry realizes that they can be taking shares of a 1.x trillion dollar sort of wireless communications industry, and they can tap into that, there's huge opportunities, but there needs to be a cultural change in that industry, opening up for being affine to wireless standards, for example, and then they could shape that industry and can develop new business models and take again big shares of a big market.
No, so I think back to the lighting customers. We have many lighting companies of different sizes coming to us now to work with us on adopting Li-Fi into their products. And why is that? Because they want to have a differentiated technology they go to their end customers with, but their end customers are asking them for differentiated solutions to support their end needs as well. So, this is happening on a global basis. So we are working very closely with many lighting companies of different sizes to provide Li-Fi enabled luminaires for their product range.
So huge opportunities ahead.
Fantastic, very exciting.
Yeah, so
unlimited.
Unlimited.
Brilliant. So pureLiFi will be at Lux Live in November, and I think I can pretty much guarantee you'll have a pretty busy time there. People keen to see the technology in action, and we're really looking forward to that. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.